I, 28F, have always felt like the black sheep in my family, especially when compared to my younger sister Elaine, 26F. Our parents, particularly our mom, have shown clear favoritism towards Elaine for as long as I can remember. I've never been able to figure out exactly why Elaine is the favorite, but it's been obvious since we were kids. When I was born, my parents were struggling financially and emotionally. They decided to let my aunt and uncle raise me for the first 6 years of my life. According to my aunt, my mom was dealing with severe postpartum depression, which made it difficult for her to care for me. My aunt and uncle didn't hesitate to take me in, understanding the severity of the situation. As a baby, I had no idea that my aunt and uncle weren't my real parents. I grew up in their loving household, feeling secure and happy. However, things began to change when I started school. My parents would visit occasionally, explaining that they were my real parents and that my stay with my aunt and uncle was only temporary. These visits were always confusing for me. I was excited to see my parents, but I also felt a sense of abandonment. I would watch them spend a few hours with me, playing and talking, but then they would leave, taking Elaine with them. This pattern continued, and it became clear that Elaine was always their priority. While my aunt and uncle provided me with all the love and care they could, the brief visits from my parents left me feeling unwanted. Finally, when I turned 6, my parents brought me back home. At first, I was excited to be reunited with my family, but the excitement quickly faded. I realized how different life was compared to living with my aunt and uncle. One of the first changes I had to adapt to was sharing a room with Elaine. She had always had her own room, and there was a spare bedroom that my parents could have given me. Instead, they insisted that Elaine and I share a room so that we could bond as sisters. Elaine hated this new arrangement and made her feelings clear. If I played too loudly or read books that my aunt and uncle had bought for me, Elaine would mock me, calling me names. Whenever I tried to decorate my side of the room, Elaine would scoff and call me childish. If I brought home a good grade from school and excitedly showed it to my parents, Elaine would roll her eyes and sarcastically call me the teacher's pet. When I practiced playing the guitar my aunt and uncle had gifted me, Elaine would tell me I sounded awful and should give up. Even small things like how I organized my toys or the way I talked about my day became reasons for Elaine to ridicule me. With time, I realized that the things I enjoyed doing became points of contention. The warmth and acceptance I had felt at my aunt and uncle's home was replaced with a constant sense of tension and conflict. Elaine had a problem with everything I did, and it made me self-conscious. Imagine your younger sister, someone you wanted to bond with, making fun of you for every small thing. It made me start doubting myself. I was too young to understand that what Elaine was doing was bullying. I thought maybe I was the problem and just wanted to fit in with my family. I stopped reading my books at home and would only read them at school. I stopped playing my guitar altogether. I did all of this hoping that maybe Elaine would accept me if I changed. Unfortunately, no matter how much I tried to adapt and fit in, Elaine's attitude towards me didn't improve. The more I tried to please her, the more I felt like I was losing parts of myself. Even when I stopped doing all the things that annoyed Elaine, she would find new ways to mock me. I remember in my early teens, I developed acne due to hormonal changes. Elaine would constantly tell me how ugly I looked and that my face was disgusting. Hearing this was so hurtful that I would cry and go to our parents. Instead of supporting me and telling Elaine off, my mom would tell me to stop crying and toughen up. Dad wasn't much help either, he would try to stay out of it. Mom would tell me how I needed to stand up to my sister instead of coming to her. As a result of Elaine's bullying and my parents' inability to make me feel safe and loved, I felt confused and isolated. I longed for the nurturing environment I had with my aunt and uncle, where I had always felt valued and understood. My aunt and uncle did come to visit whenever they could, and when they did, they would try to gently talk to Elaine and tell her not to trouble me, but she never paid them any attention. As I grew older, I slowly became a very angry teenager. I remember that even though Elaine was younger than me, she was more popular at school, and she didn't like that I was starting to make friends. She would try to sabotage my friendships by spreading rumors about me. This time, instead of asking my parents for help, I started standing up for myself. I would confront her about the rumors and tell my friends the truth. Elaine would complain to our parents, and I would sometimes get scolded, but I still felt a mix of satisfaction and guilt for retaliating. The last straw that proved to me exactly how much my parents favored Elaine over me was during my high school graduation. I had worked hard throughout high school and was graduating with honors. I wanted my parents' support and presence at the ceremony, hoping for their pride and encouragement. However, just days before the ceremony, my mother informed me that Elaine had a dance recital scheduled on the same day. Despite my graduation and her recital being hours apart, Elaine wanted my parents to attend her full dress rehearsal, and according to my mother, she needed them more. My mother assured me that my dad would be there to support me. Though disappointed, I resigned myself to the idea that at least one parent would be there for me. On the day of the ceremony, I was shocked when even my dad didn't show up. Apparently, my mom had called him urgently, saying Elaine was having a panic attack before her rehearsal and needed him there to calm her down. Dad chose to rush to Elaine's side instead of coming to my graduation. When I walked up to receive my diploma, I remember seeing no familiar face in the audience cheering me on. I felt nothing but a profound sense of loneliness and abandonment. Later, when I returned home, both my parents and Elaine were absent. I called them only to learn that they were still with Elaine, celebrating her successful rehearsal. Hours passed before they returned, jubilant and celebrating Elaine's performance. They hugged her tightly and praised her accomplishments as if it were the most significant event of the year. I couldn't shake the jealousy and hurt I felt at that moment. My parents didn't even apologize to me for missing my graduation. It was a stark realization of where I stood in my parents' priorities. Despite my hard work and achievements, I was always overshadowed and unappreciated compared to Elaine. This entire thing became a turning point in my understanding of how my parents viewed us, and it shaped my perception of myself within my own family. I started to stop asking my parents for help or for them to be present. I stopped thinking that I could depend on them. Whenever I performed well in my studies or extracurricular activities, I no longer bothered telling them anything. The only people I could talk freely about my achievements with were my aunt and uncle, and they always appreciated me, even for small things. Their words meant more to me than any recognition from my parents ever could. When Elaine graduated from high school and was accepted into a prestigious university, my parents made a huge celebration out of it. They were bursting with pride, bragging about her achievements to everyone and hosting a party in her honor. I congratulated my sister because I genuinely felt happy for her, despite our difficult relationship. A year later, when I graduated from college with a degree in computer science and a job offer from a top tech company, my parents did nothing of that sort. Seeing this, my aunt and uncle wanted to celebrate my achievement by organizing a small gathering with close relatives and some of my friends. Initially intended to be a modest affair, word spread and many more family members and friends expressed their desire to join and show their support for me. However, my parents expressed disapproval, deeming this celebration as over the top. They felt that I didn't deserve such a lavish celebration, especially when they hadn't done the same for Elaine when she started college. Admittedly, the party that my aunt and uncle were throwing for me was indeed more elaborate than the one Elaine had when she graduated high school. However, I wish my parents could have let me have just one day without complaining. My mother argued that Elaine would feel really bad if she found out that our aunt and uncle were celebrating me with a party, especially considering they had only given her a gift card when she graduated. My aunt, visibly upset, reminded my mother how she and my uncle always had to step in to support and celebrate me because my parents never did. She pointed out how my parents had enthusiastically celebrated Elaine's achievements but seemed indifferent to mine. My uncle echoed her sentiments, questioning why there was a double standard in celebrating their children's successes. In response, my parents defended themselves, arguing that it was challenging to balance celebrations for two children and that their focus had naturally been on Elaine's milestones since she was the youngest. They claimed their hands were full and that they couldn't do everything for both of us equally. My mother further justified that just because they didn't celebrate me enough didn't mean that they didn't love me. Thankfully, my aunt and uncle were not convinced. My uncle argued back passionately that being parents meant being there for both children, not just one. He criticized my parents for not treating me with the same enthusiasm and support they always showed Elaine. In the end, my parents had no argument to stand on, so I did end up having a big party, just as my aunt and uncle wanted me to have. I had invited Elaine to attend, but she told me she was too busy with college preparations to attend a silly little party. For years, my parents continued to show their favoritism towards Elaine, even when we were both adults. It's also particularly evident in how they treat us and our significant others. While Elaine and her boyfriend were always warmly welcomed to our family gatherings, I felt increasingly excluded, especially after I started dating my boyfriend, Jake. When family events came around, my parents would extend invitations to Elaine and her boyfriend without fail each year. However, after I introduced Jake to them, suddenly my parents had concerns about their gatherings becoming too crowded if they invited Jake as well. It felt like a double standard. What made it worse was how my parents viewed and talked about Jake. Despite his impressive academic achievements and successful career as a software engineer, they would find reasons to criticize him. Meanwhile, Elaine's boyfriend, who had dropped out of college and was still trying to figure out his career path, was never questioned or judged in the same way. My mother's comments were particularly hurtful. She once openly expressed to me how she would have preferred me finding a more family-oriented guy instead of someone like Jake, who was so career-driven. She even suggested that Jake would not be a good father to my future children. Despite her remarks, I continued my relationship because I believed in Jake and our future together. I even started declining invitations to family dinners and annual holiday events to avoid giving my parents any reason to criticize Jake. I don't believe my absence had much of an impact on them. Now, coming to the main reason why I'm posting on Reddit today. 6 months ago, Jake proposed to me, and I said yes. I had no doubts in my mind that he was the one for me. This man has given me so much love and support over the years, I can't even imagine my life without him. When I informed my parents about the engagement out of courtesy, wanting them to hear the news from me rather than from someone else, I was met with mixed reactions. My dad seemed genuinely happy for me and congratulated me, while my mom remained silent. Later, my mother texted me to express her disappointment. She said she was disappointed that I had not listened to her and had gone ahead with the engagement to Jake. She claimed that as a woman, she knew other women better and felt Jake would not be a good fit for our family. I was taken aback and told her to stop, as I was tired of her constantly bringing down my relationship. I asked her if she had any legitimate reason for her dislike of Jake or if it was just unfounded prejudice. This is when my mom retorted, saying that Jake constantly challenged her opinions, unlike Elaine's boyfriend. This statement left me speechless. It was true that Jake isn't someone who lets other people walk all over him. In the past, whenever my mother had tried to subtly mock his career choice or his views, Jake has never let it slide. This is one of the things I admire about Jake, he stands up for himself. He's aware of our family's history, and unlike me, he doesn't hesitate to assert himself with my mother. However, Jake has never been outright disrespectful, his responses are typically polite but firm. It was clear to me then that my mother's issue with Jake was not based on any real behavior or character flaw, but rather on her discomfort with someone who wouldn't simply agree with everything she said. I told my mother that I didn't feel what Jake did was wrong in any way and that I wished I was more assertive like him. My mother retorted that Jake was a bad influence and that he was changing me too much. I paid little attention to my mother's criticisms and continued enthusiastically planning my wedding with Jake. 2 months ago, I sent out wedding invitations to everyone, including Elaine. Despite not receiving any congratulations from Elaine after the engagement, I still harbored no ill feelings and extended an invitation to her for the wedding. To my surprise, Elaine declined the invitation without any explanation, which disappointed me somewhat. But what truly caught me off guard was when my dad called to inform me that while he would be attending, my mom had decided not to come. I knew my mom had reservations about Jake, but I had hoped that for the sake of our family and my special day, she would set aside those differences and join us. I was taken aback and asked why. My dad explained that Elaine had apparently planned a surprise birthday party for her boyfriend on the very same day, which my mom was going to attend instead of my wedding. This revelation was weird since I knew that Elaine's boyfriend's birthday was months away from my wedding date. I couldn't understand why they would hold a party on the exact same day as my wedding. Instead of confronting my mom first, I decided to reach out to Elaine directly to clarify things. Although we didn't often speak, I wanted to handle the situation with respect and dignity. I called Elaine and asked her straightforwardly about the birthday party and if that was really the reason she wasn't planning to attend my wedding. To my surprise, Elaine confirmed that this was indeed the case. She explained that her boyfriend had always wanted a surprise party, and they had originally planned it for his actual birthday, but they didn't have enough money saved up at the time. Hence, Elaine admitted that she had gone out of her way to make it up to her boyfriend by working hard and finding a special venue for their celebration that fit within their budget. Unfortunately, the only available date for this venue happened to coincide with my wedding day. I expressed my disappointment and gently suggested that she could have chosen a different date, emphasizing just how much I would have appreciated her presence at my wedding. However, Elaine replied that her boyfriend's happiness came above everything else and made it clear that she wasn't willing to change their party date just to accommodate my wedding plans. Her words stung, and she didn't even wait for me to reply before disconnecting the call. Later, when I called my mom to discuss the situation, she resorted to the same age-old explanation she often used with me. She insisted that Elaine would feel hurt if she didn't attend her boyfriend's party and reiterated that my dad was already planning to attend my wedding, so I shouldn't be selfish and expect her to come as well. I told her, my voice almost breaking, just how painful it was for me to constantly feel like she treated me as inferior compared to my sister. I explained to her that she could do as she wished, but I was no longer going to acknowledge her as a parent after this. My mother scoffed at my words and told me that I should not be so overdramatic over my wedding. After the fallout with my mom over her refusal to attend my wedding, I chose to cut off communication with her entirely. My main focus shifted to ensuring that Jake and I had the most beautiful wedding possible and that our celebration was filled with joy and love. Despite my disappointment with my mom, I was grateful that my dad honored his promise and stood by me on my special day. When Jake and I finally tied the knot, my aunt and uncle, who had already anticipated my mom's absence despite their urging, were understandably upset and disappointed. They had even warned my mom beforehand, emphasizing the importance of her presence. The fact that she still chose not to come struck a deep chord with them. What made matters worse was when Elaine uploaded pictures from her boyfriend's surprise party, where my mother could be seen dancing and drinking as if she didn't have a care in the world. The issue wasn't what she was doing, but the way they both seemed to flaunt their disregard for my feelings about their absence from my wedding. My mom never once called me or Jake to check up on us or congratulate us throughout the whole day. Post-wedding, my aunt and uncle didn't hesitate to confront my mom about her absence from my wedding. They didn't hold back, expressing their disappointment in her behavior and didn't mince words while telling her plainly that they were fed up with how poorly she had treated me over the years. They told her that they had given her more than enough chances to be a good mother, but she clearly only cared about Elaine. They went as far as to threaten her with consequences, including potentially removing her from their will. When Mom tried to argue back with them, saying how Elaine's boyfriend's party was important too, they informed her that they would make sure that I got every penny of their inheritance since I deserved it more than her. This was a huge thing to be said by my aunt and uncle, and completely unexpected. My mom, who had been struggling to justify her absence at my wedding until then, found herself in a tough spot after hearing this. After her confrontation with my aunt and uncle, she called me, pleading for forgiveness. Mom expressed disbelief at how missing my wedding had escalated into such a fiasco. During our brief talk, she lamented how unfair it would be if I received my aunt and uncle's inheritance instead of her. She urged me to persuade them not to proceed with any decisions related to their estate. Clearly, she was more concerned about inheriting money than fixing our strained relationship. Hence, I didn't engage in much conversation with her as I was on my honeymoon and wanted to preserve my mood. However, lately, after I came back from my honeymoon, she's been calling me almost every day, pleading for another chance to make things right between us. She suggested that Jake and I should have another wedding ceremony, this time with just close family members if possible, so she can also attend. She's expressed regret over missing my wedding and insists that I should give her an opportunity to remedy the situation. Her change of heart and persistent requests have put me in a tough spot. On one hand, I understand her desire to make amends, but on the other, it's hard to ignore the hurt caused by her absence and the deeper issues it represents. I don't want to plan another wedding just for her to attend. Also, out of nowhere, Elaine sent me a text saying how I should not have involved our aunt and uncle in our private matters and that Mom is really afraid of losing her inheritance. She said for the sake of Mom, I should stage another wedding just to restore the peace within our family. Ida, if I don't give in to the demands of my mom and Elaine to have another wedding? Update 1, it's been about 3 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and advice. Your words really helped me gain perspective on my situation. First, I talked to Jake about the whole situation. He was understandably upset about how my family had treated us, especially on our wedding day. He agreed that having another wedding would be unnecessary and potentially harmful to our emotional well-being. Jake believes I should stand up to my mom and tell her that she had her chance to attend our original wedding but she chose not to, so now she has to deal with the consequences of her actions. I decided to take Jake's advice and the advice of many commenters. I called my mom and had a long, honest conversation with her. I told her that I appreciated her apology, but I wasn't willing to have another wedding ceremony just to appease her. I explained that her absence at my wedding was just the tip of the iceberg, it was a culmination of years of favoritism and neglect. My mom tried to defend herself, saying she always loved me but found it difficult to connect with me after I lived with my aunt and uncle for so long. She claimed that she felt like she didn't know how to be a mother to me and that's why she gravitated towards Elaine. I told her that while I could understand her struggle, it didn't excuse her behavior over the years. I also addressed the inheritance issue. I made it clear that I had no intention of influencing my aunt and uncle's decision about their will. I told her that their choice was their own, and if she wanted to change their minds, she needed to speak to them directly and work on repairing her relationship with them. The conversation ended with my mom in tears, begging me to reconsider. I stood my ground and told her that while I was open to working on our relationship in the future, I needed time and space to heal. I also made it clear that any reconciliation would need to include acknowledgement of past hurts and a genuine effort to change. After my conversation with my mom, I received an unexpected call from Elaine. To my surprise, she wanted to meet up and talk. Curious about what she had to say, I agreed to meet her at a local cafe. When we met, Elaine seemed nervous and uncomfortable. She started by apologizing for missing my wedding and for her behavior over the years. She admitted that she had always been jealous of the close relationship I had with our aunt and uncle, and that she felt like she had to compete for our parents' attention. Elaine then dropped a bombshell. She revealed that she and her boyfriend had broken up shortly after his surprise party. Apparently, the stress of planning the party and the guilt of missing my wedding had put a strain on their relationship. She confessed that she regretted prioritizing the party over my wedding and that she wished she could turn back time. I was shocked by Elaine's confession and honesty. For the first time in years, I saw vulnerability in my sister. We ended up talking for hours, sharing our perspectives on our childhood and our relationship with our parents. Elaine admitted that she had often felt pressured by our mom to be perfect and that she resented me for seemingly having an escape with our aunt and uncle. While this conversation didn't erase years of hurt, it felt like a step in the right direction. Elaine and I agreed to work on our relationship and to be more open and honest with each other in the future. However, just as things seemed to be looking up with Elaine, I received some troubling news from my aunt and uncle. They called to inform me that my mom had shown up at their house, demanding to know why they were planning to leave their inheritance to me. Apparently, she had accused them of trying to buy my love and loyalty with money. My aunt and uncle were upset by my mom's behavior and accusations. They reassured me that their decision about their will was based on their love for me and their disapproval of how my parents had treated me over the years. They also mentioned that my mom had threatened to contest the will if they went through with their plan. This situation has created a new layer of tension in the family. I feel guilty that my aunt and uncle are facing such stress because of me, even though I know it's not really my fault. I'm also worried about how this might affect my budding reconciliation with Elaine. Jake has been incredibly supportive throughout all of this. He suggested that we take a short trip away to clear our heads and get some perspective on the situation. I'm considering taking him up on this offer. I'm at a loss for what to do next. Should I try to mediate between my mom and my aunt and uncle? Should I stay out of it entirely? How do I navigate my new relationship with Elaine in light of all this drama? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Update 2. It's been about 2 months since my last update, and the situation has taken some unexpected turns. I want to thank everyone again for their support and advice. Your insights have been invaluable during this challenging time. After much consideration, Jake and I decided to take that short trip he suggested. We spent a week at a quiet beach resort, away from all the family drama. It was exactly what we needed, time to relax, reconnect, and gain some perspective on everything that had happened. During our trip, I received a call from my dad. He rarely reaches out independently, so I knew something significant must have happened. Dad informed me that Mom had suffered a minor heart attack. She was stable and recovering in the hospital, but the doctors advised her to avoid stress. Despite my complicated feelings towards my mom, I felt worried and guilty. Jake and I cut our trip short and returned home immediately. When we arrived at the hospital, we found Elaine already there, looking exhausted and worried. To my surprise, my aunt and uncle were also present. They explained that despite their recent conflicts with Mom, they couldn't stay away when they heard about her health scare. Their presence seemed to have a calming effect on everyone. When I entered Mom's hospital room, I was struck by how small and vulnerable she looked. Her eyes filled with tears when she saw me, and she reached out to hold my hand. For the first time in years, I saw genuine remorse in her eyes. Mom began to speak, her voice weak but determined. She apologized for her behavior over the years, admitting that she had let her insecurities and fears drive a wedge between us. She confessed that she had always felt inadequate as a mother, especially after giving me to my aunt and uncle for those early years. Instead of working to overcome those feelings, she had channeled her energy into Elaine, creating an unhealthy dynamic in our family. What she said next shocked me. Mom revealed that she had been seeing a therapist for the past month, trying to work through her issues and understand why she had treated me the way she did. She said that her heart attack had been a wake-up call, making her realize that she needed to make things right before it was too late. Elaine, who had been listening silently, suddenly burst into tears. She apologized for her role in the family dysfunction, admitting that she had often taken advantage of Mom's favoritism instead of standing up for me. She expressed regret for missing my wedding and for not being a better sister over the years. As we talked, years of pent-up emotions came pouring out. There were tears, accusations, and painful truths shared. But for the first time, it felt like we were all truly listening to each other. In the midst of this emotional conversation, my aunt and uncle joined us. They shared their perspective on the situation, explaining why they had made the decision about their will. They emphasized that it wasn't about playing favorites, but about trying to right what they saw as years of imbalance in the family. To everyone's surprise, Mom asked my aunt and uncle to keep their original plan for the will. She said that she now understood why they had made that decision and that she no longer wanted to contest it. She acknowledged that her behavior had been driven by fear and greed rather than love and concern for me. This conversation marked a turning point in our family dynamics. While it didn't erase years of hurt and resentment overnight, it opened the door for honest communication and healing. We all agreed to attend family therapy sessions to work through our issues and learn healthier ways of relating to each other. As for Jake and me, we're cautiously optimistic about these developments. We've decided to maintain healthy boundaries with my family while giving them a chance to prove that they're serious about change. Jake has been incredibly supportive throughout this process, reminding me that it's okay to protect myself emotionally while also being open to reconciliation. I know we have a long road ahead of us, but for the first time in years, I feel hopeful about my relationship with my family. It's a strange mix of emotions, relief, anxiety, hope, and lingering hurt. But I'm committed to working through these feelings and giving my family a chance to make things right. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this journey. Your words have given me strength and clarity during some of the most challenging moments. I'll keep you updated on how things progress. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have evolved in my family. The family therapy sessions we agreed to attend have been challenging but incredibly beneficial. We've had moments of breakthrough and setbacks, but overall, I can see a positive change in our family dynamics. My mom has continued with her individual therapy alongside our family sessions. She's made significant progress in understanding her past behaviors and working on changing them. There have been difficult conversations where she's had to confront the pain she caused me over the years, but she's shown a genuine commitment to making amends. Elaine and I have been working on rebuilding our sisterly bond. We've started having regular sister dates where we catch up and share our lives with each other. It's been nice to discover the person my sister has become without the cloud of resentment and competition hanging over us. My dad, who had always been somewhat passive in family conflicts, has also stepped up. He's acknowledged his role in enabling the dysfunction in our family and has been actively working on being more present and supportive. As for my aunt and uncle, they've been incredibly supportive throughout this process. They've participated in some of our family therapy sessions, helping to provide context and perspective on our family history. They've also maintained their decision about their will, but it's no longer a point of contention in the family. Jake has been my rock through all of this. He's been patient and understanding, offering support when I need it and space when things get overwhelming. His presence has been a constant reminder of the healthy, loving relationship I deserve. One of the most significant developments came last month when my mom approached Jake and me with an idea. She suggested that we renew our vows on our first wedding anniversary, with a small ceremony including our immediate family and closest friends. Unlike her previous suggestion of a second wedding, this felt genuine and not driven by guilt or ulterior motives. After discussing it thoroughly, Jake and I agreed. We saw it as an opportunity to celebrate our love and the progress our family has made. The ceremony was intimate and beautiful, filled with emotion and sincerity. Seeing my mom, dad, and Elaine there, genuinely happy for us, was a moment I'll cherish forever. I won't pretend that everything is perfect now. We still have our moments of tension and old habits sometimes resurface. But the difference is that now we have the tools and the willingness to address these issues head-on. I've learned that healing family relationships is a long, ongoing process. It requires patience, forgiveness, and a commitment from all parties involved. While I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of my family relationships, I'm also proud of the boundaries I've maintained and the personal growth I've achieved through this journey. Thank you all for your support and advice throughout this challenging time. Your words have been a source of strength and clarity. While our family story is still being written, I feel hopeful about the chapters to come.